All right, y'all. Hey, somewhere along the way, we were taught that if you're soft, you're easy. If you're nurturing, you're naive. And if you're forgiving, you must be a fool. And this lie has cost us all our peace. So let me say this before we go any further. Soft doesn't mean stupid. Now pull up to the table and welcome back, cousins. You already know what it is. I'm your girl Montanna, and this is Pink Table Confidential, and that is where grown women come to be real, be heard, and get snatched up a little bit in the process. So if this is your first time at the table, baby, pull up a chair. And if you have been rocking with your girl, then you already know we don't do surface over here. We do healing and accountability, and we don't do it one-sided, even when it's uncomfortable. Now, before we jump in, let me tell y'all what I have been up to, because as you can see, I got that new going on. And by new, I do have a new podcast studio here at the After Party Live, and I'm feeling real comfy and cozy here. So shameless plug, not every podcast needs a big stage. You just need the right space. So if you are in Dallas and you need a podcast home, you can follow me to the After Party. And on top of that, I turned 48, baby, a month to the date. And let me tell you something. I have never felt more grounded, clearer, more me. This season in my life is very intentional, which is perfect because today's topic is about softness. And soft doesn't mean to let people play in your damn face. And we're going to be unpacking it, all of it today. And speaking of protecting what's soft, this episode is sponsored by Sweet Kitty Club, and that is where I make organic products that will make a good kitty even better. And one thing about me is I'm going to protect my peace and my pH. So if you haven't already, I need you to head over to sweetkittyclub.com. You can use code PINKTABLE for a sweet discount because your softness deserves support internally and externally. And cousins, don't forget, follow Pink Table Confidential and the After Party wherever you like to watch or listen to your podcast. I need you to share this to your group text, send it to your girls, because somebody is going to need this conversation. Now, before we get started, I know y'all saw Amy Luciano and Dwight Howard are back on the blogs. Now, she and Dwight have been married 14 months, and he is taking that girl through there. Now, y'all remember 6 months in, she filed for divorce and then yelled psych because she wanted to stay. Now, if you ask me, I think she knew she needed to leave the situation, but wanted to save face when Royce Reed, who is one of Howard's most vocal baby mamas, warned Amy to remove herself from the circus of Dwight Howard. And what she do? Put them clown shoes on and went right back in and had the nerve to say that Royce was jealous and bitter and mad because Dwight never married her. Okay. Amy had a breakdown in a now viral video that has gotten over 2 million views because she's claiming Dwight Howard has a cocaine addiction and that CPS agents have visited their homes 3 times in less than 3 months and have removed their stepdaughter because of these cocaine claims. Okay. Amy said that initially she tried to stand by her husband despite her fears, and even though she was scared for herself, whatever he wanted her to say and do, she was going to do it because that was her man. And now she's saying she is tired of holding his secrets. Girl, isn't this the same thing that Royce was trying to tell you, but you wanted to ignore the warning signs, claim she was bitter, and now look. Okay, the ladies, I'm all for being a pick-me for your man, but please make sure that he's the right kind of man to be a pick-me for, okay? This makes me think back to the whole K. Michelle and Memphis incidents where she was swearing that he was abusive. Nobody wanted to believe it until we saw he and Toya Wright's relationship play out on a reality show, and then everybody could believe it. So what is it with some of y'all? Like, y'all don't respect the warning based on who is telling it regardless of the facts? Because here's my thing, as women, we really have to be a safe place for each other. I know sometimes it's hard because a lot of us had to learn by experience. You know, we got to bump our own heads before we believe what somebody else is telling us. But when a woman is brave enough to say, this is what I experienced, we shouldn't dismiss that. That's protection, ladies. And we really need to do a better job of protecting each other, because too often we hear another woman's story and think, yeah, but that wouldn't happen to me, or start to believe that our love or our good coochie is gonna fix it, okay? It's gonna make him change, when we all know that shoes don't stretch and men don't change. I don't care what he promised. I don't care what version of himself he showed you in the beginning. Character is always going to reveal itself eventually. And that is what brings me to something that happened in my own life, because there was a time when I believed that patience meant staying. There was a time when I believed that understanding meant giving chance after chance after chance. And now looking back, I realized I was trying to protect something that didn't even exist. Okay. So let me ask y'all something. Was there ever a season in your life where the illusion felt safer than the truth, where you held on to something just so the story wouldn't change? Because I have. And I'm going to tell you about the time when I created this false fantasy, all to protect an image of a family than the peace inside of it. It takes me back to a moment in my own story when I was 16, pregnant with my oldest daughter. I had her a month after my 17th birthday. Her father was 3 years older than me, so you would think he would be more mature, more responsible, and he was none of it. From the start, I was the one carrying the weight. I was the one showing up, and he was doing what most irresponsible men do, making promises he couldn't keep and disappearing when it was time to step up. But here's the thing. I had my father in my life. So for me at the time, I felt like it would have been devastating for my daughter to grow up without hers. And I didn't want her to feel abandoned or unloved. So I tried through gritted teeth to co-parent and keep the peace. I let him come and go as he pleased. I tolerated the emotional abuse, financial neglect, broken promises, all in the name of keeping a father figure in her life, because I thought I was doing the right thing. I thought I was choosing peace, but it felt like a punishment. And I kept telling myself, she deserves her father, but what she really deserved was a mother who didn't compromise neither one of our peace for a fantasy, okay? Because here we are, 30 years later, she still doesn't have a real relationship with him. And not because I didn't try. Lord knows I tried, okay? Because I'm the baby mama that will never keep you from your kid, because I do believe kids belongs with their daddy, okay? But you just can't force someone to show up for a role they were not qualified for. And she eventually told me that I forced her to have a relationship that she didn't even want. And it hurt, because she was right. I did force it. I was trying to create something that didn't exist. So when I met my husband, when she was around 4, he showed up, loved her, supported her, and her biological donor would come around and do just enough damage to confuse her, make her feel guilty for loving a man who actually showed up for her in his absence. I remember she was speaking to her donor about her weekend plans, and she told him she was going to be such and such, she was going to do such and such with her dad, referencing her stepdad. And would you believe this loser had the nerve to say, well, if that's your daddy, why am I paying child support? Excuse me? Your support, sir, equated to one Happy Meal a day. And I'm not talking about 2026 prices, okay? And this is why I tell my nieces and my little cousins in similar situations, the same advice I took for myself, girl, fuck him and go find your baby a stepdaddy, okay? You have to know when to walk away and when to stop fighting battles that are not yours, because whether I stayed or left, begged, prayed, tolerated, or whatnot, he was going to be who he was, and that is a deadbeat. So yeah, hindsight, I would have just bashed Mister's head in and thought about heaven later. And I know somebody will not agree with this, but there was many a day when she was young when I considered giving him and his family an honorable death. Like, telling her that he and his parents were in a car wreck, even though none of them owned a car, probably not even to this day. Would I have been wrong for telling her he went on to glory to prevent this very thing from happening? But what's crazy is a few years back, his dumb, dead tooth ex-girlfriend called my daughter to announce that she and him was no longer together. Now, keep in mind, she was the reason in part that they had a strained relationship. She wanted her to know that he was physically abusive with her for years and a functioning alcoholic, and I had hoped that this would help my daughter realize that she wasn't missing out on something, that this was God's way of protecting her from his toxicity. But seriously, what I learned is that being soft ain't about how much you can take. It's about knowing when to stop taking it. Sometimes choosing peace means leaving people right where they left you at, even if you have to raise a child by yourself to do it. And FYI, I did the leaving, and he was bitter, and this is why we were in this situation. So yeah, time wasted that we can never get back. I'm thinking I'm protecting my peace, but really I was protecting his comfort. And at the end of the day, I learned softness doesn't mean you shrink yourself. It means you show up graceful, grounded, and damn grown. And that's why I wanted to start off with this topic, because so many of us think that being soft means letting people slide with shit, keeping quiet or staying graceful while folks play in your damn face. But that's not what softness means. It doesn't mean weakness. It means wisdom. So let's get into that. Now, I spent years confusing being soft with being silent. I really thought keeping the peace meant keeping quiet. And turns out I wasn't keeping the peace. I was just keeping myself in pieces, because like I said, soft doesn't mean you let people walk over you. It means you walk away without losing yourself. It's emotional intelligence. It's self-control. It's grace under fire. It's knowing you could clap back, but you're going to choose peace because you've already outgrown the chaos. Now, the internet got this whole soft girl era trending like it's bubble baths, brunches, and silk robes. And don't get me wrong, baby, I like my Sachi robe and a little nightcap too, but that's surface level. Real softness, that's when you can sit in your own emotions without being embarrassed by them. That's when you can say I'm hurt instead of I'm good. And that's when you can cry without apologizing. Some of y'all think being feminine means letting folks run through your boundaries like a revolving door. No, ma'am. Setting boundaries is not masculine energy. It's self-respect. It's how you teach people how to handle your softness. When I say I'm soft, I don't mean I'm weak. And it definitely doesn't mean I have to be nice to your ass. It means I'm healed enough not to argue with a damn fool. Okay? That was a lesson I learned today. Don't even argue with a damn fool. I mean, I've worked too damn hard on myself to let anybody take me to a broken version of me. And you ever notice how society loves a strong black woman, but the second she chooses softness, they oh, she acting brand new. Now, why she can't be acting healed? That's how you identify the people who only know how to function in dysfunction. Look at how folks talk about Sierra and Russell. They hate seeing a woman loved properly. Being loved means she ain't real. Being loved gently after surviving chaos, baby, that's revolutionary as hell. We gotta start reclaiming softness like it's our superpower, okay? Soft means safe with myself. That's the real flex. Because the truth is, you don't go through all that pain and all that growth and all that healing just to come out hard. You coming out whole. That weapon did not prosper, okay? So to all the women listening, be soft and stay solid, because the world needs your heart just as much as your hustle. Now, before we get into this Dear Kitty letter, one thing about me, I'm going to keep my peace and my pH. So if you have ever dealt with any repeat BVs, yeast infections, or PCOS, and maybe even you're trying to cut some soul ties with your ex, Yoni pearls are available at sweetkittyclub.com. Again, use code PINKTABLE. We've got instructional videos, and if you need to chat with me, you can do that directly online, because softness includes taking care of your body too. All right, y'all. Now, for our Dear Kitty segment. And this is where you send me your questions, your confessions, your situationships. And I do what I do best. I'm going to listen with love. I'm going to give a little wisdom and never judge, even if it sounds like I am. All right. So thank you for submitting your letters to me. I'm honored that y'all let me in the group chat. All right. So here is our Dear Kitty letter. Dear Kitty, what do you think about a family member calling you to tell you that you were a horrible parent? I became a mom as a teenager and raised my kids the best way I knew how. Yes, I needed help at times, but I always was present and did everything I could for my children. Recently, a family member called me out of the blue to criticize my parenting from years ago. What makes it hard to take seriously is that her own daughter barely has a relationship with her today. In fact, her daughter introduces her stepmom as her biological mom and even graduated early just so she could emancipate herself. So I'm confused. Why someone whose own child struggles with them would feel comfortable judging how I raise mine? Now, my question is, why do people feel the need to insert themselves into someone else's parenting stories instead of minding their own business? Signed, the pot or the kettle. That one was very interesting, okay? Let's talk about this. Now, first of all, we already know parenting does not come with a handbook, but somehow judgment always seems to come with a microphone, okay? Everybody suddenly becomes an expert on somebody else's motherhood. Now, I'm going to say this. Becoming a mother as a teenager, I would know, means you're growing up and raising your children at the same damn time. And that's not easy. And yes, sometimes your family might have to step in. But needing help doesn't mean you weren't present, and it doesn't mean you didn't love your kids. It means you're human. What I find interesting in a situation like this is the nerve, is the audacity, okay? Because it's always people with their own unfinished business at their own damn house that seem to, be most comfortable critiquing someone else's parenting. Now, here's the part where I may be a little different, because sometimes we think being soft means sitting there and taking it and being polite and not saying nothing, but that don't mean that, okay? Soft doesn't mean you have to sit quietly while somebody tries to rewrite your damn story. Because I'll be honest, if somebody called me questioning my motherhood while their own child doesn't even claim them publicly, we're gonna have a conversation, respectfully or not respectfully, but clearly. And not to tear them down, but to remind them that none of us are perfect damn parents. Sometimes the best response is simply saying, before you try to audit my past, you might want to check your present, okay? Because motherhood is hard. It's hard enough without women turning on each other. Like I said, grace needs to go both ways. And sometimes the softest thing you can do is tell the truth. All right. Now listen, I love that y'all put me in the group chats. If you want me to read your Dear Kitty letter, you can send it to pinktableconfidential@gmail.com and make sure it's spicy. Now, let me leave you with this. Being soft is how you treat yourself, and walking away is emotional maturity, and you can be kind without being accessible. Next week, we're going to have a special guest, and I cannot wait for this. I know this was an episode that I really wanted to just get out there because it has been so long. Like I said, 3 months. We're 3 months into the new year, and this is my first episode with you guys. So I know it was a long time coming, but I had to do it. Another thing I want to let you guys know. So I've been doing these stories with the after party, where I've been doing these stories with men who have gone to prison, and I want to get these like stories of redemption. And I've gotten a couple of them under my belt. Well, one under my belt. And so I got to give a thank you to my boy Frank. He was my first guest for the story. I haven't even given it like a title, but the video is on YouTube and it's doing really, really good on the After Parties YouTube channel. So please make sure you check that out. We have another one that is going to be released this week, and it is with my boy Mar Butler. And when I tell you, y'all, the story, I am like really sitting behind the camera and just getting these stories have just been, they've been eye-opening. So his interview is going to drop on this coming Wednesday, and I'm really excited about that. Okay, I am creating a roundtable for men to have a candid conversation with each other. And so I did share it on my wall that I am putting together a powerful conversation with a panel of men, different backgrounds, different perspective, with one real discussion. And so if you feel like your voice belongs in the room, you got to let me know. If you are a guy and you have, more things to say than, well, what about the women? If you have more to say than, pointing a finger at a woman for who you are at your core, who you present to be at your core, I would like to see you at that table. Okay. And that ain't going to be for everybody. That is not going to be for everybody. But like I said, I am looking for that. I do appreciate stepping in. I know this, like I said, I know this episode was really short and to the point, but I needed to come on here and show my face and let you guys know that I am always thinking about you. I hope you haven't forgotten about me. And if you want to support what we are doing here at Pink Table Confidential, please make sure you are shopping sweetkittyclub.com. And like I said, use that sweet discount of Pink Table at checkout, okay? Thank you guys so much for tuning in. Make sure you are following us. We are on all social platforms, on Instagram and Facebook. Don't have a TikTok yet, maybe. I went and visited my daughter this weekend, and she showed me where she done made $30 whopping on TikTok. And she only have like a couple hundred followers. And I'm like, okay, maybe I need to go on and get on TikTok. TikTok seems to work for some of y'all, but it has just never been my friend. But so we are on Instagram, Facebook, and obviously YouTube. That is where our podcast is housed. Okay. And I'm your girl Montanna, Madam Montanna on Instagram. You can find me on Facebook. Follow me too. All right. Thank you so much for tuning in to another episode of Pink Table Confidential. All right. Happy women don't hate, and hating women ain't happy. And that goes same for you tender dick ass dudes as well. Y'all keep it locked, and we'll talk to you later.